On to our second inductee, and this man is extremely well known, obviously, and it comes as no surprise that he is inducted tonight. Your second inductee in the Hall of Fame is Josh Kennedy. Josh started playing soccer at Twin City Wanderers as a 6-year-old, and he moved on to Boomers FC as an 11-year-old and played there until he was 16. He started representing football with AWFA as a 12-year-old, and no doubt was an early person that they identified as a talent, eventually offered a position in the Victorian Institute of Sport. He played 4 years with Riverina and New South Wales state titles, interesting and rejected from the New South Wales technical director at the time, and told to go home and play basketball. Thank goodness that Josh doesn't listen very well. Josh first played senior football at 14 and played his last game in the Senior Cup final in 1998, which Boomers won against Diamonds. Immediately after the Cup final, his parents drove him to the Australian Institute of Sport in Canberra to take up a scholarship position in the football program. In 1999, Josh was offered a contract with Club Carlton in the National League. During that season, he played for Carlton's youth team against the AWFA youth side. Also in 1999, Josh played for the Joey's under-17s in the World Cup tournament in New Zealand. His international career continued through 2001, 14 appearances for Australia in the under-20s young Socceroos and playing in the Youth World Cup in Argentina. Over the next 5 years, he switched around between different clubs in that time as well and attracted plenty of interest. In the same year, he then, with the Australian coach Gus Hiddink, called Josh into the 2006 World Cup squad. He received his first international cap in a pre-2006 World Cup friendly, scoring in his first game. Over the next 8 years, he would play 36 games for the Socceroos, scoring 17 goals and playing in 2 World Cup campaigns. In June 2009, Josh went on to sign. Over the next 2 years, Josh would achieve 2 Golden Boot awards and be part of his first ever title-winning team. He was also named in the Team of the Year for the J-League in 2010. He returned to Australia in November 2014 when he joined Melbourne City as their Australian marquee player. Unfortunately, injury forced his early retirement in 2015. He returned to Albury many times over the past 7 years, conducting coaching clinics and promotional events. He now holds an A coaching licence after attaining his C licence at a course in Albury, and is working for Football Australia. And he was also, like Angela, inducted into the Hall of Fame more recently in 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your second inductee, Josh Kennedy.
That's all. That's it. That's a nice time. That's enough. Apologies as well. I've got a bit of a bad cough, so if I do cough during this speech, I do apologise. My heart's beating a little bit fast, to be honest. I generally don't accept awards or to be recognised and inducted in the Hall of Fame is quite special. It's something that I probably didn't even think was going to happen. So first I'd like to thank Greg and Orphan and the association for putting on the event. Mark obviously planting the seed a few years ago to make this happen. Well done on getting this up, and I'm sure the 24 inductees, have I got that right? The 24 will be definitely some worthy people to be inducted. So it's almost, I think, 35 years ago. I'm just thinking, Steve, 35 years ago that used to hold training sessions for Boomers when I played at Twin City Wanderers, and used to get a parent to stand in the game to pretend they were me when we play against each other. So from 35 years ago to now, there's, as you can imagine, a lot of stories I'd like to tell. You know, there's a kid growing up in Yakandanda who just wants to play football and play sport and be competitive, and then there's a person who's turned into representing Australia, you know, married my wife, having 3 children, and now almost carrying that torch for the next generation of football administrators in Australia as well. So I think I'll go back a little bit longer. I'm not sure how much time I have. Yeah, okay. So apologies if it's a little bit long, but we'll go back to Twin City Wanderers. I'm not sure if anyone from Twin City Wanderers is in the room tonight. So firstly, thank you to Twin City for creating an environment that when I was a kid, when I was 5 years old, that there was a place that I'd become to love and play football. That's obviously a key part of a young child or children today wanting to play the game and staying in football. So thank you for that. Steve, thank you for putting the transfer request as well from Boomers. When I was, 12 years old, I think, to come over in that next step of my development as well. To have someone like you, Wayne Fraser, Simon Randall, spend time to invest your own time in the group of boys that we had. We've got Adam sitting there next to me as well as my teammate through those years. Keith, your son David as well, through those years that played with me as well. So it's a journey, and I'd like to, especially Steve and Wayne as well, call out you two, because if my path didn't cross your path, then maybe I would be standing here today and would have had a career idea as well. So thank you to both of you as well. So I think we can. And then I think it's again to SSA Boomers as well, now called Boomers, I think, to create an environment that I was a young footballer and actually loved to come to training and play. These days, you know, as a parent, that's a special, something special to have as a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid as well. So thank you to Boomers, and then obviously, you know, my career sort of went to the next step, going to the Institute of Sport, and not long as well heading overseas as a 17-year-old to Germany. So it's been quite a journey from a 5 or 6 year old kid growing up in Yakandana. I think I was the only kid that played football, to now coming back to the border. I think Yakandana's got a football club, and to come here and see the kids and put on coaching clinics and still see people that I admire in the game as well. It's impressive what happened from the border. I don't know if it happens everywhere across New South Wales, but I'd definitely like to thank everybody in the association that puts on games each week as well, because it is very special to our kids and all the kids that play football. So without blabbering on too much, I think, Greg, that's probably enough from me. Thank you for having me here tonight, and thank you everyone for turning up, and I appreciate it.
Just before we let Josh go, just a couple of quick ones, mate. Here, I'll throw that over to you. First of all, just go back to what we heard in the little snippet before when you got told to go and do basketball. Perhaps, what are your emotions when you're going home in the car, mate? Did you actually consider giving up?
I considered giving up many times, to be honest. I've got to be careful. That John and Gilbert from New South Wales are here, so. That's part of a journey. That's part of anyone's journey is being tested, and your resilience being tested as well. And I was a pretty good basketball player, so it probably wouldn't have been too bad. But that's part of getting to the next level, pushing through hard times when things don't go your way. That happens as a 10-year-old. That happens as a 12-year-old, as a 15-year-old. I didn't make my under-17 Joey squad initially. So all of those little times that you get tested throughout your life, that brings you to the point where you can push through some really hard times.
There's a number of people in the room that coach a lot of juniors and have a lot to do with them and stuff like that. If you could put, I know before you signal out the guys, Steve and Wayne and all the work that they've done with you, but was there a particular thing that you look back on now that helped you be as successful that you were individually? Is there something that you did? Was it your work ethic? What was it?
I always thought I worked hard, but you might have to ask some of the coaches if I did or not. I was extremely competitive. I always wanted to win, to the point now that if I play my son in a game of table tennis or darts, he's not winning the game, that's for sure. So I always had that competitive nature and always wanted to win, but at the same time, I think when the work was there to be done, I was always ready and up for the challenge to put the hard work in.
Australian, maybe a difficult one, Australian football at the top level at the moment. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's an exciting time. I think both in a female and male perspective, I don't have to say that Matildas, how front and centre they are in Australia and in the world at the moment. And for our Socceroos with the showing we had at the World Cup, There's some exciting new young players there as well. So I think if they can take that next step and potentially play in some of the bigger leagues in Europe as well, I think we're in good stead for some years to come.
Well, Josh, you, like I said at the start, mate, no doubt a worthy inductee. Very humble as always that you are. Congratulations, enjoy it, mate, and well deserved.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Cheers. Thank you.